Jennifer Lopez is talking again about the period after her divorce from Ben Affleck. But this time, the headline is not about blame, a new romance, or a dramatic accusation. The latest update is quieter and maybe more revealing. In a new SmartLess appearance, Lopez said the end of that chapter forced her into a level of self-reflection she could no longer avoid. The unanswered question is what exactly changed for her after one of Hollywood's most watched relationships ended for a second time. Because Lopez is not presenting this as a simple breakup story. She is describing it as a turning point, one that collided with a canceled tour, a new home, her children preparing for college, and a professional reset as she promotes her Netflix romantic comedy, Office Romance. For verified entertainment updates without the rumors, subscribe to Startline Entertainment. Lopez appeared on SmartLess with Will Arnett, Jason Bateman, and Sean Hayes while promoting Office Romance. During the conversation, she mentioned that almost everything in her life had changed over the last couple of years. That opened the door to a brief but meaningful discussion about the aftermath of her split from Affleck. When Sean Hayes jokingly asked what happened, Lopez did not launch into a detailed explanation of the marriage. Instead, she laughed and suggested that was a conversation for another time. But what she did say gave a clearer picture of how she now sees the period after the divorce. She described the last several years as turbulent, and the last two as a healing process that made her look at herself more honestly. That matters because Lopez and Affleck's relationship has never existed only in private. Their first romance became one of the defining celebrity stories of the early 2000s. They were engaged, delayed a wedding, split in 2004, built separate lives, and then stunned the public when they rekindled their relationship in 2021. By July 2022, they were married in Las Vegas. A month later, they held a larger wedding celebration in Georgia. But by 2024, the second chapter was coming apart. Lopez filed for divorce in Los Angeles County Superior Court in August of that year. The filing came exactly 2 years after their Georgia ceremony, which made the timing impossible for the public to ignore. Court reporting later showed they reached a settlement through mediation, and the divorce became legally effective in February 2025. Now, more than a year after that legal ending, Lopez is not describing the divorce as a public battle. She is talking about the internal aftermath. On SmartLess, she said that after canceling her tour, she had to sit with herself and ask what was really going on. The phrase that traveled across headlines was blunt. She told herself she had to figure herself out. That is the center of this story. Not a new allegation, not a fresh legal dispute, not a hidden scandal. The verified update is that Lopez is publicly framing the post-divorce period as a personal reset, one where she stopped looking outward for every answer and began asking what patterns in her own life needed to change. She was also careful not to say the divorce was entirely her fault. That distinction matters. Lopez acknowledged that other people can behave in ways that are difficult, but she said the turning point was focusing on what she could examine in herself. In other words, she was not trying to relitigate the marriage in public. She was explaining how she chose to process what happened after it ended. That shift fits with other recent comments Lopez has made about being single and rebuilding. The public has seen pieces of that reset over time. The tour cancellation in 2024, the divorce filing, the final legal dissolution, her work on Kiss of the Spider-Woman, and now a new romantic comedy arriving on Netflix. Each moment has kept her in the headlines. But this new interview connects them through one larger theme: reinvention after a very public personal change. One of the most interesting details is how Lopez ties the divorce aftermath to her life as a mother. She said her twins, Max and Emma, are preparing to begin college, which means she is also facing a major family transition. For years, she has been balancing work, motherhood, relationships, touring, film, music, and a public image that rarely gets a quiet season. Now she is describing a new home, a new rhythm, and a life that looks different from the one she had 2 years ago. That is why the Office Romance promotion matters. On paper, Lopez is promoting a Netflix rom-com with Brett Goldstein, but the timing gives the interviews extra weight. She is returning to the romantic comedy space while publicly talking about what romance, identity, and self-understanding look like after a high-profile divorce. The movie gives her a professional reason to appear on shows and podcasts, but the personal reflections are what are driving the wider conversation. There is also another reason the public remains interested. Lopez and Affleck have not turned the divorce into a public feud. In October 2025, Affleck appeared at the New York premiere of Kiss of the Spider-Woman, a film Lopez starred in, and that Affleck helped produce through Artists' Equity. Cameras captured a cordial public moment between them, and Lopez later credited Affleck and Artists' Equity with helping make the project possible. That does not mean there is a reconciliation story here. It means the public record shows a more complicated post-divorce dynamic than a simple fallout narrative. They ended their marriage, became legally single, and still appeared capable of professional respect in a shared film context. That is important to say clearly, because celebrity headlines often turn any friendly exchange into speculation. What remains unclear is what Lopez may eventually choose to say about the private reasons the marriage ended. In this SmartLess interview, she did not give a full explanation, and there is no need to invent one. The confirmed public story is that she filed for divorce, the split was settled, the legal process ended, and now Lopez is describing the emotional work that followed. The Startline takeaway is that Jennifer Lopez is repositioning the story. For months, the public conversation around her and Ben Affleck was framed around what went wrong. Now Lopez is shifting attention toward what changed afterward. She is not asking viewers to solve the marriage. She is saying the aftermath made her stop, reflect, and rebuild from the inside out. That kind of statement lands differently because Lopez has spent decades living through reinventions in public. She has been a pop star, movie star, entrepreneur, fashion figure, and tabloid fixture. But in this moment, the image she is presenting is not the untouchable celebrity who moves instantly to the next project. It is someone saying that the end of a major chapter forced her to ask harder questions. For viewers, the most important thing is not to overstate what she said. Lopez did not confirm a new conflict with Affleck. She did not reveal a hidden reason for the divorce. She did not say every part of the breakup was her responsibility. What she confirmed is that after the divorce and the canceled tour, she entered a period of self-examination that changed how she sees herself. As of now, the clearest update is this. Jennifer Lopez is legally past the Ben Affleck divorce, professionally back in promotion mode with Office Romance, and publicly describing the last 2 years as a healing process. The open question is whether she will ever give a fuller account of what happened inside that marriage. But for now, the story she is choosing to tell is about what happened after it ended.